They have told you the same thing your whole life. Eat more vegetables. Vegetables are health. Vegetables protect you. And you believed it, just as I believed it for years. But today I need to tell you something that deeply bothers me as a doctor, something that goes against everything we were taught. There are foods that, after age 60, do not take care of you, they harm you. Foods that appear on every healthy eating list and are silently stealing the calcium from your bones, inflaming your joints, overloading your kidneys, and spiking your blood sugar as fast as a can of soda. And the cruelest part of all is that the more disciplined you are with your diet, the more consciously you eat them thinking you are doing good, the more damage they accumulate. I am going to reveal the four dangerous foods to you right now before any explanation, because if you eat them every day, you need to know now. Number one is the white potato, which raises blood sugar as fast as a soda. Number two is the tomato, which can amplify inflammation in the joints. Number three is the green bell pepper, which inflames the gut and joints in adults over 60. And number four is the beet, which blocks calcium absorption and overloads the kidneys with oxalates. And the four I'm going to show you that your body actually needs are broccoli, kale, okra, and carrots, each with specific scientific mechanisms that rebuild collagen, protect joints, and maintain your mobility. Stay until the end because I am going to explain exactly what happens inside your body with each of them, with real biological mechanisms and concrete scientific studies. Tell me in the comments now, which of these four dangerous foods do you consume every day? Write it here. Anatomy of the human urinary system. Before getting into the details of each food, I need you to understand three critical changes that happen in the body after age 60 that completely transform how it reacts to food. First, the kidneys filter up to 40% less efficiently than at age 40. Compounds that you eliminated without a problem before now accumulate. Second, insulin sensitivity naturally decreases. The sugar spikes that the body handled well before now trigger inflammation and tissue damage. Third, the gut becomes more permeable and more reactive. Certain proteins and plant compounds that used to pass through without a problem can now irritate the intestinal wall and trigger systemic inflammation. These three changes mean one thing: the nutrition manual they gave you 30 years ago no longer applies to your body today. And the most dangerous foods are exactly the ones no one suspects, the ones with the best reputation, the ones that appear in all the health articles, the ones your doctor probably never questioned. Click subscribe now and hit the bell. And let's start with the four dangerous ones, from the least to the most devastating. I know exactly what you are thinking. Beets are one of the most recommended superfoods. They lower blood pressure, they improve circulation. All of this is true for people in their 30s or 40s. For you, after age 60, beets have a hidden face that no one showed you, and it has a scientific name: oxalates. Oxalates are natural compounds present in beets in very high concentrations. A single cup of cooked beets contains more than 500 milligrams of oxalates, and what they do inside your body after age 60 is devastating on two simultaneous fronts. The first front is the kidneys. Oxalates bind to calcium in the bloodstream, forming calcium oxalate crystals, exactly what makes up kidney stones. Those stones that anyone who has ever suffered from them describes as the most intense pain of their life. When you are young, the kidneys filter these crystals efficiently. But after age 60, the kidneys work up to 40% slower. What you eliminated easily before now accumulates, crystallizes, and forms stones. A study published in Urological Research demonstrated that a diet high in oxalates increases the urinary concentration of oxalates by more than 40%, directly increasing the risk of kidney stones in older adults. The second front is the bones. Oxalates bind to calcium in the gut before it can be absorbed, literally blocking the absorption of this essential mineral. The calcium you ingest in food or supplements can be completely neutralized by the oxalates in beets before reaching the bones, resulting in weaker bones and a higher risk of fracture. The alternative is direct and equally effective. If you're looking for the cardiovascular benefits of nitrates, which is what really makes beets good, Swap them for arugula or spinach, which are naturally rich in nitrates, support vascular health, and contain a minimal fraction of oxalates. You get the same cardiovascular benefit without the renal and bone damage. Beets are not your enemy forever, but in the amount and frequency most consume after age 60, they become a silent saboteur of your bones and kidneys. Treat them as an occasional pleasure, once a week at most, not as a daily food. And if you have already had a kidney stone even once in your life, beets should be practically eliminated from the diet and replaced immediately. Tell me in the comments, do you eat beets regularly thinking you are protecting your heart? Write it here, because probably no one ever told you what they are doing to your kidneys and bones at the same time. This is the one that costs me the most to explain because most people simply cannot believe it. The green bell pepper, colorful, crunchy, seemingly full of vitamin C. For many adults over 60, it is a constant and invisible source of inflammation. The mechanism has a name: lectins. Lectins are proteins that plants produce as a defense mechanism against insects and predators. The green bell pepper contains lectins in an especially high concentration, much higher than its ripe cousins, the red, yellow, and orange peppers. What lectins do in the gut of an older adult is specific and documented. They fix themselves to the intestinal wall, interfere with nutrient absorption, and in people with an already sensitized gut, which happens naturally with age, they can trigger what we call increased intestinal permeability. When the intestinal barrier weakens, particles that should not enter the bloodstream do so. The immune system detects them as invaders and launches an inflammatory response that does not turn off. It becomes chronic, silent, and constant. This low-grade chronic inflammation has consequences that many adults over 60 experience without ever relating them to what they eat. Stiffness in the joints upon waking that takes time to pass, tingling or numbness in the feet and fingers, mental fog in the afternoon, and tiredness that does not improve with rest. For Mr. Albert, a 73-year-old patient who had been dealing with morning stiffness in his knees for 2 years, when I analyzed his diet in detail, I discovered he put green bell pepper in practically every meal. We eliminated green bell pepper for 3 weeks. The morning stiffness decreased by more than 60%. The detail that few know is that a green bell pepper is simply a pepper that has not ripened. Ripening reduces lectins significantly. A ripe red pepper has a fraction of the lectins of a green pepper and still provides much more antioxidants and vitamin C than the green version. Cooking partially reduces lectins but does not eliminate them. If your gut is already sensitized, even small residual amounts are enough to keep inflammation active. The alternative is simple. Replace green bell pepper with fully ripe red or orange peppers. You gain more antioxidants, more vitamin C, and less inflammatory risk. If you have frequent stiffness in the joints, abdominal bloating, or mental fog, take this test right now. Eliminate green bell pepper completely for 21 days and observe how you feel. The results may deeply surprise you. Tell me in the comments, do you use green bell pepper regularly in your meals? And have you noticed stiffness in the joints upon waking that takes time to pass? Write it here, because these two habits may be directly connected in ways that no doctor ever explained to you in a 15-minute consultation. This is the hardest one to accept because the tomato has an impeccable reputation. Rich in lycopene, an antioxidant, a staple of American cuisine, everything we hear about it is positive. And yet, in people over 60 with already inflamed joints, the tomato can act as a silent accelerator of inflammation and as a disruptor of nerve signals. The reason lies in a compound called solanine. The tomato belongs to the nightshade family, along with peppers, potatoes, and eggplants. This family of vegetables contains natural alkaloids, with solanine being the most relevant for the health of older adults. Solanine is a toxin the plant produces to defend itself from parasites. In small amounts, a young body handles it without problems. But in people over 60 with already inflamed joints, an autoimmune tendency, or nerve disorders, solanine can act as an invisible trigger that amplifies existing inflammation in ways that manifest daily as more marked and lasting morning stiffness, pain in the joints that improves during the day but returns with every meal that includes tomato, and slower recovery after exercise. Research published in the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry showed that alkaloids like solanine can interfere with the acetylcholine system. the network of nerve signals that coordinates muscle contractions. In older adults, this interference can translate into less fluid movements, a higher risk of falling, and deteriorated coordination. For Mr. Ramon, a 70-year-old patient who cooked with fresh tomatoes every day and had pain in his knees and hips diagnosed as moderate osteoarthritis, I suggested completely eliminating tomatoes and other nightshades for 4 weeks. At the end, he told me something that stayed etched in my memory. Doctor, it's as if someone turned down the fire inside. An important clarification, not all adults over 60 react to tomatoes the same way. If you have never noticed that tomatoes cause discomfort, you don't need to eliminate them completely. But if you have osteoarthritis, autoimmune disorders, or coordination problems, it is worth taking the elimination test for 30 days and observing. The alternative to obtain potent antioxidants without the nightshade alkaloids is to incorporate carrots, squash, and dark leafy greens, which have extraordinary antioxidant profiles without the inflammatory risk for sensitive people. And here's the rule of thumb I communicate to all patients with compromised joints. If you take anti-inflammatories regularly for joint pain and have never tested eliminating nightshades from your diet, you may be taking medication to compensate for a food that is causing the problem the medication is trying to solve. Tell me in the comments, do you eat tomatoes daily and have pain or stiffness in the joints that won't go away? Write it here because the connection between these two facts may be more direct than any doctor has ever explained to you. And we have reached number one, the most consumed, the most beloved, the one that hurts most to hear. The white potato, warm, comforting, familiar, present on American tables since childhood. And after age 60, one of the most dangerous foods you can eat habitually, not because of toxins, not just because of alkaloids like the tomato, but because of something more fundamental and more damaging, its explosive glycemic load. I am going to be completely direct. A medium-baked white potato raises blood sugar as fast and as high as a can of soda. Its glycemic index is 85, one of the highest of all foods. For a young adult with an active metabolism and good insulin sensitivity, this is manageable. For an adult over 60, where insulin sensitivity has naturally decreased and metabolism has slowed, this glucose spike is an inflammation bomb that explodes 3 times a day if you eat potatoes at every meal. And that is exactly how most eat. What happens inside your body at every glucose spike triggered by the potato is specific and documented. The pancreas produces emergency insulin, glucose is deposited quickly, insulin falls in a free fall, and in that process, a cascade of inflammatory markers is released that circulates through the entire organism, damaging blood vessels, joints, nerve tissue, and cell membranes. Repeated 3 times a day, 7 days a week for years, it is constant chronic inflammation. A Harvard study of more than 100,000 adults showed that those who consume potatoes daily had a significantly elevated risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and in those who ate French fries regularly, this risk spiked by 33% more. For Mr. Anthony, a 72-year-old patient who arrived at the office with pre-diabetes, generalized joint pain, and energy he described as living with dying batteries, breakfast was white bread, lunch always included potatoes, and dinner did too. 3 daily glucose spikes for decades. We worked together to gradually replace the potato with low glycemic load alternatives, and in 2 months, the glycated hemoglobin improved remarkably. The joint pain decreased by 70%, and he told me something that sums it all up. Doctor, I have more energy now than 10 years ago. Smart alternatives are specific and immediately implementable. Replace white potato with cauliflower, which can be prepared mashed, roasted, or gratin with a very similar texture, but with a minimal fraction of the glycemic impact. Or with sweet potato, which although it has some natural sweetness, has a significantly lower glycemic load and still offers beta-carotene, potassium, and fiber that actively protect the muscle. If you cannot completely give up the potato, boil it instead of baking it. Boiling slightly reduces the glycemic impact. Always eat it accompanied by protein and fiber to slow down sugar absorption, and limit it to once or twice a week at most, not daily. Every meal where you replace potato with cauliflower or sweet potato is an inflammation bomb you disarmed before it exploded. Tell me in the comments, do you eat white potatoes daily? And have you already associated potato consumption with joint pain or altered blood sugar levels? Write it here, because this connection is one of the most documented and least communicated in all of American geriatric medicine. Broccoli is the vegetable that children push to the edge of the plate, and for adults over 60, it is one of the most powerful medicines that exists in the plant kingdom because of three compounds that work in perfect synergy. Vitamin C, a single cup of chopped broccoli provides more than 80% of daily needs, and vitamin C is literally the construction material without which the body cannot manufacture or repair collagen. Without enough vitamin C, collagen production slows down, joints lose cushioning, skin thins, and healing takes longer. Vitamin K, here's the secret that very few people know about bones. It is not enough to take calcium. Without vitamin K, calcium cannot correctly fix itself to bone tissue, and even worse, can be deposited in the arteries instead of the bones. Broccoli is one of the best sources of vitamin K available, the nutrient that acts as the glue that anchors calcium exactly where it should be. And the third compound is sulforaphane, broccoli's secret weapon, rich in sulfur, which is released when broccoli is chewed or lightly cooked. A study published in Arthritis and Rheumatology demonstrated that sulforaphane can actively block the enzymes responsible for the destruction of joint cartilage. It doesn't slow down the destruction, it blocks it. For anyone over 60 with a tendency toward osteoarthritis, this is extraordinarily relevant. How to prepare it correctly matters as much as what you eat. Steamed, 3 to 5 minutes at most. Never boiled in water, because water destroys the vitamin C and the sulforaphane before you can absorb them. Accompanied by a few drops of lemon to boost the antioxidants and a small spoonful of olive oil to improve the absorption of vitamin K, which is fat soluble and needs fat to be absorbed correctly. This simple combination, steamed broccoli, lemon, and olive oil, is one of the cheapest, most accessible, and most scientifically documented nutritional interventions available to protect joints and collagen in adults over 60. 3 times a week is enough to produce a measurable benefit in inflammatory markers. And if you never liked broccoli, try it prepared with garlic browned in olive oil for 3 minutes after steaming. The flavor changes completely, and most patients who resist boiled broccoli are surprised by this version. Kale had its fashion moment as a superfood and then faded into the background. Grave error. For adults over 60, kale is one of the most complete vegetables that exists in terms of protecting collagen and bones. A single cup of raw kale provides nearly 90% of daily vitamin C needs, almost as much as an entire orange, and provides something even more impressive, more than 600% of the daily needs of vitamin K, 600% in a single cup. This means that a small portion of kale per day gives the body all the material it needs to correctly fix calcium in the bones, maintain bone density, and reduce the risk of fracture, which is one of the greatest threats to independence after 60. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition demonstrated that a high consumption of leafy green vegetables like kale was associated with a significantly slower degradation of collagen in older adults and better hydration of connective tissue. Other studies confirmed that vegetables rich in vitamin K reduce the risk of hip fracture in older people, a fracture that for many older Americans marks the beginning of the decline of independence. The way you consume kale determines the level of benefit you absorb, and there are ways that maximize each nutrient specifically. Raw in a salad with olive oil and lemon preserves all the vitamin C and delivers the polyphenols intact. Lightly sautéed with garlic over medium heat for 2 to 3 minutes increases the bioavailability of vitamin K. In soups and stews, kale integrates naturally and delivers minerals to the broth. The key is to incorporate it regularly, not occasionally, every day if possible, because the benefits of vitamin K on bone density are cumulative and depend on consistent exposure over time. For patients who arrive at the office with compromised bone density and resistance to calcium supplements because they produce no visible effect, the first question I ask is always the same. Do you consume kale regularly? The answer is almost always no. And the explanation is simple. Without enough vitamin K, the calcium you take does not reach the bones. Kale resolves this problem naturally, consistently, and completely for free compared to any pharmacy supplement. This is the vegetable that surprises most when I mention it, okra. This vegetable with a gelatinous texture that many tried once and never touched again. And it is exactly this gelatinous texture that so many reject that makes it one of the most powerful vegetables for joint health and collagen in adults over 60. This substance has a name, mucilage, and it does two extraordinary things simultaneously. First, it acts as a protective bandage inside the digestive system, coating and protecting the intestinal wall, improving the absorption of essential nutrients to produce collagen. A healthier gut better absorbs the vitamin C, zinc, and amino acids the body needs to manufacture this tissue. Second, mucilage functions as internal lubrication for the joints and cartilage. When joints are better hydrated on the inside, they better resist stiffness, excessive friction, and micro injuries that accumulate damage with age. Furthermore, okra contains quercetin and polyphenols that actively block the enzymes that degrade collagen, protecting what you already have while the body produces new tissue. A study from the Journal of Food Biochemistry confirmed that okra extracts significantly reduce inflammatory markers and help preserve the integrity of connective tissues in older adults. How to prepare it to reduce the gelatinous texture that so many reject is simple and immediately applicable. Cut into large pieces and saute over high heat with olive oil and garlic for 5 to 7 minutes. The high heat reduces viscosity while preserving nutrients. You can also add it to soups and stews where the texture integrates naturally without being noticeable. If you have never tried it or didn't like it, give it a second chance with this specific preparation. Because okra prepared over high heat with garlic and olive oil is completely different from the boiled okra most know and reject. For patients with osteoarthritis who arrive at the office seeking natural alternatives to anti inflammatories, okra is always the first food I include in the dietary protocol, exactly for the unique combination of lubricating mucilage with quercetin that blocks destruction enzymes. It is a combination that no over the counter supplement can replicate with the same efficiency and the same accessible cost. And we have reached number one of the allies, the most surprising of all because it is also the humblest. The carrot, cheap, available in any American supermarket, present in every kitchen, and completely underestimated as a protector of collagen in adults over 60. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition established a direct and measurable link between the consumption of beta carotene, the compound that gives the orange color to the carrot, and a better collagen structure in older adults. Fewer wrinkles, more flexible joints, and connective tissue more resistant to deterioration. The mechanism is specific. Carrots are extraordinarily rich in beta carotene, which the body converts into vitamin A, and vitamin A is essential to maintain and repair the epithelial tissues that line the joints, the skin, and the walls of the blood vessels. Without enough vitamin A, collagen fibers weaken, skin thins, joints lose cushioning, and tissues repair more slowly. The carrot also provides vitamin C, creating a perfect nutritional duo where vitamin A and vitamin C work together to manufacture and stabilize collagen. And its antioxidants, beta carotene, lutein, and polyphenols, neutralize the free radicals that attack and destroy existing collagen, protecting what you already have while the body produces new tissue. The preparation detail that multiplies the benefits is the most important on this entire list, and most people do exactly the opposite of what they should. Beta carotene is fat soluble. It needs fat to be absorbed correctly. Eating raw carrots without fat absorbs very little beta carotene. The correct combination is lightly cooked or roasted carrots with olive oil. This preparation can multiply beta carotene absorption by up to 3 times compared to eating it raw without fat. Alternate raw carrots with olive oil or hummus to preserve vitamin C, and roasted with olive oil to maximize beta carotene absorption. Both versions in the week, each with distinct advantages that complement each other. For the patient who arrives at the office telling me they eat carrots every day but don't feel a difference, the first question I ask is always the same. Do you eat them with olive oil or without? The answer is almost always without, and there is the error, not in the food, but in the preparation that determines whether the nutrients reach the right destination or pass through the organism without being absorbed. Tell me in the comments, which of these 4 allies are you going to start including this week? write it here, and also tell which of the four dangerous ones you are going to replace first. Remember Mrs. Dorothy, the patient who did everything right. She ate fresh tomatoes from her own garden, beets 3 times a week, potatoes because they were natural and unprocessed, and who arrived at the office with recurrent kidney stones, stiff joints, and prediabetes without understanding why. 6 months after making the swaps we discussed in this video, eliminating beets, replacing green bell pepper with red, testing the elimination of tomatoes, and swapping white potatoes for sweet potatoes and cauliflower, while adding broccoli, kale, okra, and carrots prepared correctly, she returned to the office for a review. Her tests were better than in 10 years. The stiffness had disappeared, no new stones, and she told me with a smile I will never forget. Doctor, I learned that eating well is not eating everything that looks healthy. It's eating what is right for my body. Now, after 60, every forkful counts. That phrase sums up everything we discussed today because the body you have now is not the same as the one you had at 40. The chemistry changed, the metabolism changed, the kidneys' filtering capacity changed, the insulin sensitivity changed, the inflammatory response changed. And the nutrition manual they gave you 30 years ago simply no longer applies to the body you have today. You don't need to make all the changes at once. You don't need to empty the fridge tomorrow or rewrite all the recipes from one day to the next. Start with one change, just one. This week, maybe it's replacing the potato at lunch with cauliflower. Maybe it's adding roasted carrots with olive oil at dinner. Maybe it's buying a bunch of broccoli and preparing it steamed with lemon and olive oil. A small and consistent change over time transforms health in a profound and lasting way. And every dish you put on the table starting today is a decision that works for your body or against it. Now, I genuinely want to hear from you. 3 questions to answer in the comments right now. First, of the 4 dangerous foods we discussed, beets, green bell peppers, tomatoes, and white potatoes, which do you consume most frequently and that you had never associated with any of the damage I presented? Tell me, because your answer will tell me what still needs to be communicated with more clarity to reach the people who need this information most. Second, which of the 4 allies, broccoli, kale, okra, and carrots, are you going to include in your next meal? Write the commitment here because the public commitment you record in this comment is the first real step toward the habit that can appear in your next tests. And third, where are you watching from? City, state, country, and how old are you? I am always genuinely impressed by the diversity of people who reach this channel. If this video opened your eyes about something you were doing convinced it was healthy, share it now with someone you love. A family member who eats potatoes every day thinking they are healthy because they are natural. A friend who has recurrent kidney stones and eats beets 3 times a week without knowing the connection. Someone who wakes up with stiff joints every day and never associated it with the green bell pepper in the sauté. Press the like button. This helps this channel reach more Americans who need this information. Click subscribe now and hit the bell so you don't miss any content like this. Take care of your body. After 60, every forkful is a decision. And now you have the information to make the right decisions. It starts today, it starts in the next meal, it starts now.